Welcome to the Upside Podcast, where we help you get unstuck in your life by elevating your thinking and provoking meaningful change, always from the inside out. I'm your host, Teresa Flood, and I'm so glad you're here. Today's episode, we are going to talk about limiting beliefs. And I want to uncover a couple strategies that I believe will help you, just as they have helped me, get past those negative stinking thinking. So what is that? What is a limiting belief? We have all had them. We all have them regularly if we're completely honest with ourselves. But those are those little thoughts that whisper things like, you can't do that. You're not good enough for that. You don't have what it takes. Or it could just be a thought that causes you to think small or to dream small, to not go for the biggest and the best potential. It's anything that holds you back from reaching everything or grabbing the opportunities that are right in front of you. So limiting beliefs are just mental blocks that keep us from growing. And here's the truth. A limiting belief is not, because you're having them, is not true. You're having them because you're human. And so many times we give credence to it because we think, if I'm having this thought, it must be true. There must be some truth to it. And I'm here to tell you, you're having them just because you're a human being. Mo Anderson, who is the CEO, was the first CEO that Gary Keller hired at Keller Williams. She was teaching a course. She's in her 80s now and has clearly accomplished much incredible things in her life and in her business. And she said in a class that I was in recently, she said, the higher you climb, the more successful you get, the more powerful the limiting beliefs will actually be. And that took me back a little bit when she first said that. I was like, oh, great. And it felt a little discouraging, but the more I've thought about it, the more I've realized that that is true. Because the higher we go, the more we often have to lose. And as we grow, the risks are often greater and bigger. And yet, hopefully, as we grow, we're also learning strategies of how to take those limiting beliefs and not allow them to control us. So limiting beliefs are not a sign of failure. They're actually a sign that you're growing and pushing boundaries. So I would just challenge you, if you're encountering limiting beliefs right now, if you've got that little nagging voice trying to tell you to slow down or to think small or to not do something, it's probably because you're about to break through into a new area. You're probably challenging yourself or doing something that you've never done before. So in that way, that is a really good thing. Sometimes we just get so comfortable and we don't have these challenges because we're not actually pushing ourselves to grow. But certainly we don't want to leave these unchecked. So how do we break free from these limiting beliefs? I want to give you 3 things that I believe will help you. And the first thing is we have to identify them. You just have to call it out. Let's be real with ourselves, be honest about it. Calling it out and saying what it is doesn't make it more powerful and true. You got to get it out of the dark. It's kind of like when you're a little kid and you've got the monster under the bed. How does mom or dad help ease those fears? They go turn the light on. So many things just grow when we allow it to live in the dark, unsaid. And so number 1, I would encourage you to just identify what it is that is stuck in your head. And then ask yourself, where did this belief come from? And then ask, is this even true? And when you bring the thoughts into the open, you're going to take away their power. But then the second step to that, because identifying it isn't enough, is that you have to differentiate between what you can control and what you can't control. So when we have a limiting belief, what it actually does is it puts us into victim mentality because we feel powerless. It takes us out of the driver's seat. We feel like we're a victim to whatever it is around us that we're not going to be able to succeed. And so the key is to figure out what in this can I control and what in this can't I. So I would ask yourself the 2 questions. What part of this situation is in my power to control? And what steps can I take right now to move on forward? So for instance, maybe you're having the thought that I'm not the best there is at this particular. I see all of these other people and they're way better than I am. Okay, well, guess what? You can't control how good anybody else is. That's out of your control. Whether you're the best or not, actually, you can't control anybody else. But what you can do is control how hard that you work to improve every day. So reframing that and saying, every single day, I'm working to become the absolute best that I can be. Or maybe it's, I don't have what so-and-so has. You can control the fact that you're coachable, the fact that you're willing to learn, the fact that you're willing to work hard for what you want. So focus on not what's happening around you. You can't control whether people like you. You can't control whether they receive you. You can't control whether they think you're valuable. But what you can control is what you choose to bring to the table. And when you start focusing on the things you control, you're going to rob that limiting belief of its power because it causes you to not see yourself anymore as a victim, but as the one that has the power to make change. And then the third thing that you should do, for number one, we're going to identify it. Number two, we're going to determine what we can control and what we can't. And then the third thing is to reframe with evidence. Reframe with evidence. So your brain is hardwired to find what you believe and what you're looking for. So you've heard this before, I'm sure. When you buy a new car, all of a sudden that car is everywhere. You thought you were the only one with that particular car, you get it, and then literally it's everybody on that road on the road has the same car. It's because your brain is programmed now to look for it and to find it. So if you focus on the negative, if we focus on what we can't do, I promise you, you're not going to make yourself a liar. You will always go out and find evidence to support that belief. But if you're looking for evidence to support the things that you can do or the things you can control, eventually your brain is going to get in sync and it's going to find the evidence to prove that that is correct. So look at your past successes. When have you overcome things? Go back to those days and celebrate those wins. Find mentors, friends, people that are going to encourage you and speak life into you. And when you share that limiting belief with them, they're going to let you know what the truth is. You don't have to fight these battles alone. And yet, we're never with that person, our biggest cheerleader. We're not with them 24/7. And so we do have to learn how to become our own encourager and take our own thoughts captive and not let them run us around. So remember, reframing this is not about ignoring a reality. It's about choosing to focus on the possibilities instead of focusing on the limitations. And when you focus on finding the positive, when you focus on the upside, what I promise you is that you will find it. So one of the things that I ask, instead of saying, why me, I say, why not me? Or I can't with, how can I? And when you start making those little shifts, it's actually going to open up your mind to solutions. So limiting beliefs, ladies and gentlemen, does not mean you're failing. You're just a human being. And it probably means you're on the verge of a major breakthrough in your life. So I encourage you to implement these things, call them out, focus on what you can control, reframe them with positivity, and with intentional steps on this, you can get that mind in line with your goals. So take a moment today, identify one limiting belief that you've been holding on to, and I encourage you to step out and break free. So please share this episode with somebody who maybe needs to hear this message. And remember, when you invest in your growth every day, you will yield great returns in your business and your life. Thank you for joining me on the Upside Podcast. We'll see you next time.